So all of the, let me repeat again. Hi, everyone. It's Sharath Jeevan here. And real pleasure to have Michele Volpi here, the author of The Career Mix. Michele, great to have you on.
Thank you, Sharath. And really, thanks for co-hosting this and looking forward to it.
No problem. So we're going to be going to ask some short and sweet questions, a bit like a quick fire round, Michele. The first one is, you've had such a long and distinguished career in many, many areas. What inspired you to write the book?
Well, look, something that I've seen happening over and over again, even with myself in some situations, which is the lack of fit and not understanding what really drives fit, which is something very, very personal. Everyone writes a resume or a CV, and there are lots of components missing in that resume, that CV, right? That are part of our holistic eye. And I think also that, we are not really that intentional with careers. We take action, we respond to opportunities without really documenting ourselves. I've also seen senior executives so thorough and so professional at due diligence in a company that they are trying to acquire. But when a headhunter calls them, they switch off completely. And that then generates damages.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So this idea of intentionality, being clearer, having a much more systematic approach to how we think about careers really matters. What are give us the top 2 or 3 ideas in the book. What are the 2 or 3 things that you think you need to think differently about when it comes to careers, especially early careers themselves?
I think, first of all, is document yourself, right? And here is something where I think the book can help business colleges, MBA, grad schools, and students at the very early beginning. But then I'll tell you also why I think also for more senior people is really understand what is out there, but really understand the behind the scenes, which is not what you always get at a career day, right? And really understand the 3 sides of the triangle of every career. What is the effort that is required? Are you ready for that effort? What the typical workplace is, and does that make you thrive? And what are the hardwired capabilities that are needed to really succeed there? And do you have them? Do you have to improve them? And make sure you don't go in places, either companies, careers, or roles, where something where you're not that strong is actually required and is critical to succeed. So documenting yourself is very important. The other point, getting back to your question, is assessing yourself, understanding who you really are. And those 3 sides of the triangle, as you know very well, Sharath, are not really part of any resume. And also, we will speak about employers. They are not part of the job description either.
Okay, so a lot more diligence I'm hearing, like to go deeper, to understand more, to really try and figure out what's happening, to document, know thyself, know what's going on behind the scenes, are some really key messages that I'm hearing from that. What do you think is stopping us doing that? I mean, these seem like very, very sensible things to do, very, very, very useful things. Why aren't we seeing that in the world of early careers right now?
Well, I think that too much focus is put and has always been put on the job, on the role, on the job now, and the job as a standard situation, as a standard issue. I think that we need to talk about careers first, then about employees first, and then about jobs, right? Is you really need to hit on all of the 3. You need to due diligence all of the 3. And we also need to make sure that we look at things that we are typically not looking at. Effort readiness, just to be clear. I mean, understand what you're ready for, what are the key drivers, and that changes at every point in time because life events and choices make your personal spec change. So like a GPS, we call it a career GPS, reroute accordingly. Understand where you're going, but also, make sure that you check the fit on each one of those triangle elements with the opportunity at hand. So from jobs to careers and employees as well.
Yeah, what I'm hearing, Michele, is a lot around sort of introspection, reflection. And I love the book. I love some of the exercises you made me do when I read the book as well, to think about some of these questions. But also, I think what I'm also hearing is kind of almost like being honest with ourselves, right? I think what I took away from the book and your comments now, let's be honest about where we are in our journey, what we are and willing or not willing to sacrifice. I still remember that beautiful story in the book about how you went to the other side of the world, literally, for one of those really important jobs, I think at GE. So yeah, that sort of self-honesty, and then yeah, that maybe that's part of your documenting yourself. That feels like a really, really important thing. Really, what would you say then? I guess, we've talked about this before, but I think there's a lot of alternative wisdom, let's call it, around next gen careers, Gen Z, etc., which is much more about sort of, I guess, in the narrative of authenticity, find yourself, find your passion, etc. What I loved about the book was that the Career Remix was that it felt much more pragmatic, right? We've got to succeed first. We've got to find our foothold in the world, got to find what we're good at, find champions. How would you sort of counter that kind of argument that, we need to move away from traditional career thinking, we need to reinvent everything? Yeah, how would you respond to that?
Well, I think that some of the issues that we see today of disconnect between Gen Z, but also millennials and the world of work is because there is a completely different view of the world. And I think that generations like ours, actually mine is older than yours because I'm the last of the boomers, they are refusing this kind of dialogue and they are missing the opportunity. I'm not even speaking of the societal impact, right? Because that is even bigger when we think about it. But they're missing the opportunity to lure the best talent and to make sure that they have the best talent that fits them at a certain point in time. And that requires a dialogue that is a completely different approach that we have had and that typically companies have today.
Right. And so if you were to advise someone in their early career now, what would probably the two things or maybe three things that you'd say you must start to do? So you talk broadly in terms of principles, but just very practically, someone that's maybe 3 or 4 years into their career, what are the practical steps, Michele, you would say to start with?
Well, first of all, is define your personal spec, right? What really efforts are you ready to make today? Be honest with yourself, right? Are you ready to relocate? Are you ready to work 16 hours a day, including Saturdays? Well, if you say no to that, which is absolutely understandable, I'm not going to be judgmental, well, then make sure that you research well investment banking or management consulting before going into those careers, right? So understand your level of ambition, what motivates you, what are your hardware capabilities, and then, as we said, document yourself. So create your personal spec and then go in the hunt for opportunities that fit your spec. Keep yourself busy with those rather than allowing headhunters, recruiters, family members, friends to distract you with something that may not be a good fit for you right now. And reassess yourself every year because situations change and you change.
Yeah, I keep going back. When I think about the book and your words, Miguel, I can think about the Oracle of Delphi, right? And this idea that you go to the Oracle and the one thing it says is know thyself, and it feels like that's very much the strong message we're getting from the career remix. What about right now in the world of work? We've got almost another problem, which is that young people, and I'm writing and thinking a lot about this in the work I do at Oxford, at the Generational Success Lab I run there. Many young people can't get on the career ladder to begin with. And so I know in the book you talked a lot about how important it is to build professional networks, have the stability, have role models. What if someone can't even get onto that ladder to begin with? Are there ways of creating some of those benefits without being with a large employer?
Well, absolutely. And to be honest, when I was writing the book, I was discussing with some of my mentees. And one of these mentees that read an earlier version of the book said, Michele, you forgot about the small business owner or the career. And I said, yes, you're right. Actually, when we developed Talent Dev, that was one of the 10 business careers that we had. And she reminded me that, and it is absolutely correct. And I think we need to understand why more Gen Zs, because then I talked to more people, right? And they
Mm,
came with the same request. What is driving that interest in the careers? Certainly is independence is one, but
mm,
sometimes, let's read it correctly, is a refusal of the
mm,
typical traditional ladder of the
mm,
corporations, of the rigidity of, call it the return to work, right? The lack of flexible work, the top-down approach, and the lack of transparency.
mm,
So being the master of your own destiny is what more and more people want to do. Also, to be very clear, that's also the role model that they see every day. Influencers, master classes on small business entrepreneurs, which is a good story because we are basically educating more people around all the options that are out
mm.
there. There are many.
Yeah. But you're saying really that if there is the option, that more traditional path to begin with can be a very solid foundation, from what I understood of the book and really enjoyed in the book. But you are saying if you can't get on the path, because now I think AI and some of these, it may not be harder, right, at the beginning of your careers to find these roles. We're certainly seeing that in the job market in the UK, for example. There are about 40% fewer graduate vacancies than there were 2 or 3 years ago. So you're also saying, if I understood correctly, like we can democratize that. We can think about still applying some of these lessons, even in smaller organizations or being more entrepreneurial ourselves. Is that fair, or did I get that?
Absolutely. The point is that till a few years ago, these careers were not glamorous,
Mm,
right? Wow, you're going to be what? Owner, a shop owner, a restaurant owner. What is that compared to be, part of the big mega corporation, the big CEO that makes the millions, or the unicorn startup? I think that today, and this is, to be honest, I was at one of your classes at Oxford, and I came away extremely energized, motivated, and hopeful by the maturity of these students that you had in the multi-generational dialogue, that basically were very, very clear on really looking for a dialogue.
mm,
And this looking for a dialogue, let's be very clear, which is part of my appendix, the multi-generational dialogue, which you have inspired, Sharath, is based on also having a dialogue even with
mm.
customers of different generations. We will have that also in indie careers, right?
Yeah, amazing. So I'm going to ask one last question again. Then I'm going to actually open up to the floor, and we'll have a maybe a shorter session, but ask for any questions or thoughts. If we talked a lot from the point of view of a young person in the world of work and careers, if you're the CEO now, maybe you're sunsetting out of your career, you've got a few more years left, possibly. What should you do? What can you do to try and really create legacy, try and help this next generation? What would you suggest to them?
Well, first of all, look, start by being transparent, create a company spec.
Mm,
That is completely different that the careers page in a website of the company. Yeah,
mm,
is be very clear and upfront, even at the cost of losing candidates.
mm, mm, mm,
Right? At what you are and what you are not in terms of effort readiness, hardwire capabilities, and workplace situation and what you have to offer. Be very clear.
mm,
Treat candidates and employees as adults. Allow them to self-select themselves. Being a CEO doesn't make you any better or any
mm,
superior. You have been and you will be a candidate. Remember that, right? And also flip the script.
mm,
Don't always think top down, even just look at engagement surveys. The
mm,
traditional way is I am the CEO. I've done that myself in the past, so I'm to blame too. And I sit down with my CHRO, and together we decide, oh, what are we going to ask our employees this year?
mm,
Well, don't do that. Just ask them to tell you what is important to them
mm,
and rate you on that. You will have a discovery exercise,
mm,
and you have to be ready to engage and to also address very uncomfortable situations. But you
mm,
better know and have a chance to deal with them, that then they are surprised and say, oh, why do I have a retention issue?
mm, mm. So it feels like there's this kind of idea of vulnerability, openness, honesty with oneself. It's not just the young professional, it's also perhaps someone in the C-suite now. They also have to model that and create those relationships and role models and so on. And that's scary, I think. And I know, I mean, so I think thinking, why is this not happening now? It feels like an important mission to achieve, an important message to give to the world. Michele, you're also a big fan of reverse mentoring. I know, I think you've been doing some as well. Tell us a bit more about, first of all, what is reverse mentoring, and also what are the benefits? And then I'll open up to the group for any questions.
Yes, yes. Then let's see how we can unmute everyone because I'm already panicking in
Okay.
front of the screen.
Well, we can do on chat. No stress. We can use chat instead if that's easier.
No, no, no. I mean, we can open up everyone. You
Yeah.
just need to help me out, or I will need to ask some of my kids to text me. I have benefited a lot, and I'm still benefited from being mentored, right? Some of the endorsers in my book have been my mentors, and they have been, and there are others that are not there that have been mentors, and they continue to mentor me, right? And that's an amazing wealth, and I think it has contributed to my successful career. At the same time, what I am enjoying the most and what I have enjoyed the most, and I've been learning even more without any disrespect to my mentors, has been from my mentees. Because when you are a mentor yourself,
but tell us what.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, sorry. You were. No. Sorry, interrupted you. Please go ahead. Sorry.
No. It's that when you mentor people, you think that you are basically helping them, and providing your advice is unbelievable how much you get back, how much it makes you think about yourself. You mentor younger people, younger generations, right? And you realize that you have a lot to learn from them. And they make you think. Just look at the example of the book, right? Writing a book. You have one of these 25 mentees that had an early review that they give you fantastic point because they remind you things that you forgot or that you didn't pay attention to. So that is something that, speaking of your multi-generational dialogue favorite subject, we have to do more. And it's also within the companies, is every day. It's like networking. It has to be two-way.
Amazing. So that sense of being able to have the dialogue, to be able to talk about it's a two-way thing. And I'm reminded of Angela Duckworth, the author of Grit, the book. She found some interesting research, I think, that showed that mentors actually grow more than mentees sometimes, that actually get more out of it on that side of the equation. Both sides grow, but mentors actually grow even more sometimes in these relationships. So it really resonates there as well. And that's something maybe those in C-suites and in senior roles can think about. How can we try to bring that approach, in that reverse mentoring type of philosophy or approach, to our own lives as well?
And to be honest, I would encourage every CEO to do mentoring inside their own company and outside their own company to learn and to improve.
Amazing. What a rich discussion. So I've got a couple more questions, but let's open up to the group first and check in. Would anyone like to share? Either we'll have to figure out to unmute you, or if you want to use chat.
Also, I'm going to unmute everyone by one.
Great.
I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to ask everyone to unmute themselves.
I can see Piero about to say something. It seems to be working. Piero, go for it.
Yeah, Michele unmuted me, but I was trying to do it myself. Thanks, Michele, for facilitating this. I have a question.
Piero, you can do it yourself, just the best way. Just go for it. Go for it.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay,
very well.
Perfect, thanks. No, just a quick question. I'll pop up my camera as well for politeness. You have done multiple careers, Michele. The last one is that of a writer. I wonder how you felt about writing. What have you learned writing a book that can be transposed as well to the business world? I'm sure there are, every profession can port over some findings. So I'd be curious to get your insight, and knowing that Sharath as well has migrated from, let's say, the business world into becoming an author. I'd be curious as well how what is Sharath's learning in that respect as well?
Okay, over to you, please.
Yeah, from my side look, it's about reinventing yourself. Also, if you look at my career, Piero, you know that well, I've always enjoyed moving to different stuff, right? I can easily get bored. I don't know if it is attention deficit disorder or else, but clearly variety of experiences is what drove me. And getting into writing, actually, to be honest, is what I wanted to do since I was a kid. So I had to wait till I was 61 to be able to do that. So better late than never. And the most amazing thing has been actually, well, the second most amazing thing has been the learning, because I tell you, to write a book and especially to publish a book and to market a book, wow, it's much more. I understand why there are official publishers out there, but I was ready, and publishers would have delayed the situation, at least in this case. But clearly, the most important thing has been the collaboration, right? Sharing early drafts. You've been one of those. So Sharath has been one of those. And really getting input is really making you even feel more the connections with your network and learn from them.
Amazing. Yeah, and Piero, thank you for putting us in touch in the first place some years ago now, right? But
yeah, it's true. He was the one that introduced us.
Yeah, Piero's we can blame Piero for all of this. So, but yeah, I think you said it beautifully, Michele. The one thing I just say is someone told me actually after I wrote the second book is that the person who benefits most from a book is the author. And I feel like for me, like I wouldn't have structured and thought about things with the depth that if I hadn't written in my case a couple of books. I love the process. I'm now working on a novel, so I'm trying to look at fiction now as a different way of expressing ideas. But I think you learn and have to think about stuff in such a deep way, it becomes part of you. You kind of internalize it. And for me, that was an invaluable experience. Leaving aside any other benefits, that alone for me as a professional development, it was like a PhD on steroids for me as well. So yeah, that was my experience. Thanks, Pierre. Other questions from here? Anyone like to ask?
I have a question. Michele, a lot of the process you recommend, like spending enough time on mentoring, so you're getting into a position to learn from your mentees or starting to write, are things that need a certain amount of focus and dedicated blocks of time. How do you advise people who are in challenging jobs to isolate that blocks of time? And what do you tell them if they're in an environment where the organization, I mean, I know CEOs who just get loaded by their boards with additional stuff in the moment where they seem to be on top of things. So how do you deal with these situations of being overloaded and even as a CEO, not fully being in control of your time?
Well, I think it's like everything, Georg, thank you for your question, is not considering it a task or a duty, but really something that is a pleasure, is something that helps you learn, and is also a bit of giving back, right? So to be honest, we have 24 hours in a day, and sometimes we spend time even at the office just because we've got to be there, right? I'm not speaking for you and for me, for Sharath, but in many cases we have to show up even when it is not really value added. We are working more on efforts, on being present, rather than on results and on having an impact. And therefore, I think that even for a very senior person like a CEO, to find 1 or 2 hours a week to mentor people, it can be found. It can be found. It has to be found. And I think I wouldn't look at it as a time expense, but as an investment, because they're also going to get ROI out of that. So if I was a CEO today, which I'm no longer, I would take Michele's suggestion of doing the bottom-up engagement survey. I would pick 1 or 2 people that I don't know in my own company. I would sit down with them and I would ask them, after making them comfortable and provided they trust me, tell me what is important to you and rate me and my company on that. And then let's start a discussion on that. How many CEOs do that, and how valuable it is for the CEO to discover what is happening 4 or 5 or 7 layers below her or him. Miriam, Can you unmute? Sorry, I see somebody.
Now I can.
Sorry.
For some reason, it says I cannot unmute myself, so I was trying. Hi. I also have a question. And now from a point of view of the individual, if you would be someone that you're unsatisfied with your job, you're reflecting on what to do, what do I want to do, what is the next step, where would you suggest this person starts with? If we don't read your book, where would you say to someone that is unhappy to start the process to figure out what is the right job for them?
Well, if I can go first, Sharath, and then you can add your wisdom. But Miriam, I would say first understand what makes you unhappy, right? Is it the company? Is it the job? Is it the career? Is it a combination of all of that? Is it your manager? Is it yourself? Right? So understand, what is not fitting, right? And I think that the career triangle helps you a lot in terms of understanding, is it an effort issue? Is it a capabilities issue? Is it a workplace issue? Or actually, outside of the triangle, which is all encompassing it, is a matter of values, is a matter of purpose. So understand that, because before you make the decision to jump ship, you really need to understand that, because even if you jump ship, and then we'll speak about the intermediate step, you don't want to repeat the same mistake. You want to get into a better ship. So if you don't have your clear spec that also drives you to what are you looking for differently, it's not going to happen. So, but also remember that those three career triangle elements, with the company, with the job, with the career, with your manager, and with yourself, right? So it's a lot of combinations that you think of, and that maybe you want to discuss with your mentor, with your colleagues, with the people that report to you, of course, where you have the trust and the confidence. But that is the first thing really that I would do. Now, before jumping ship, which is the last point, always think if there is really something that you can change to change the situation, even at your current employer. Is it changing job, changing manager, or is doing things differently yourself in your job to not only deliver better, but also to enjoy more and to learn more. So before jumping ship, be honest with yourself. Yes, Sharath, I will unmute you. I don't know why this happened. Sorry, Miriam, but Sharath, why don't you add your wisdom now?
There's not much to add, Miriam. I think what I loved from the book, I think, Miriam, was this idea from the Kramer X, is this idea of like work being a bit of a marriage. That, I think in a way that sometimes we go into work thinking that it's all set by the employer, kind of like a taker. And I think my sort of reflection from reading it was that we're also shapers as well, that we also have a view and we have a chance. And if we can have a sense of what we want to achieve and what our purpose is, know that very clear. The employer has got their version in the middle, and then there'll be a good kind of intersection. Yeah, this kind of idea of almost a marriage, a partnership is really the big sort of image I took away from the book there.
Yeah. Super. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Is that helpful, Miriam? Is it addressing your question? If not, please go on.
100%. I feel like as an independent person, I'm always struggling because it's so much. As you said, there's so many inputs in this decision, and sometimes also external inputs that is always hard to classify. But I do agree that at the end of the day, ideally is to put everything in writing, everything out there, and from there try to figure out, ideally with a mentor, what could be the next step. So I totally agree with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Giacomo, we found the way to give you a voice.
Ciao, Michele, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, very well, thank you. Sorry if you might hear some sound, but I just stopped at a gas station in order to be able to participate in the conversation. I was driving on the highway, and at 5 I paused my podcast and I said, okay, now it's time for Michele's.
Thank you, Giacomo. Thank you. Actually, Michele, Sharath,
Drive safely.
but it's good. It's good. Don't podcast and drive.
No, well, I'm not obviously. Well, for those who don't know me, I'm a friend of Michele. I'm 38, so I'm not in a point in my career where I can give anybody's guidance. But I just want to, first of all, thank you, Michele, because I think for an experienced leader like yourself, one of the best things you can do is to put your experience into words and writing and pass it on to the future generation, especially in today's world, which is way more complicated than probably, I suppose, the one in which you started your career. So that is fantastic. I'm halfway through the book. I particularly enjoy the mix between the theory, your personal experience, because then people can relate when if theory is just theory, unless then there is a story behind where you explain that theory, but based on your personal life. And that is great because I have some experiences myself, very similar to yours. I also lived in America, in Spain. So that was good. And then there's the practice, which is great because a theory sometimes doesn't stuck until it's put into practice. So that is, I think, it's very different than other book that I've read about career. Last thing, if I can encourage you, Michele, to share this book, or perhaps let's say follow up after this this conversation in a way so that you can perhaps do workshops in schools, because I personally have spent 1 year, a little more than a year, during my business school. Every day I was going through some questions that you are posing to the readers of the book. What are you good at? How do you see yourself? What do you want to give up? And I went to business school 8 years ago, more or less. And other than doing this by myself, I did not have the proper guidance. I feel like this book could be very helpful for people who are pursuing in a practical way. So they're actually, for instance, they're in a business school. You go to business school because you want to do a big change in your career. So I think this could be very, very helpful. So I encourage you to, other than obviously, having discussion online and which are great, but also like perhaps following up with workshops, because a lot of people could benefit from it.
Thank you, Giacomo. And
Michele, I think it's great because, Michele, one of the things I guess I was thinking about was that, to your point, was that because you've got such lovely chapters and such nice sort of, it's a flow, it almost creates a sort of basis of a kind of program or a course or a piece there as well. So,
yeah, I look, one of the intentions is that of really helping career services, both with the book, but also doing workshops and courses. Of course, between that vision and reality, there is marketing in the middle, because, you can say Giacomo is a good book. Thank you for that. So we need to make sure that people know that. So for those that are on the call, don't be surprised if I leverage your relationships to try to make people know that the book exists.
Yeah, and I think it's almost on us, I think, as sort of friends and part of your community and networking here, for us to do a little bit of talking about the book to others and to try the word. That's often the best way, isn't it, for this, for sure. So I think there's a genuine sense in the room that we're and keenness to do that. One last question. I don't know if Francesco wants to say anything, or we want to one more to go, and then we'll try and close at that point.
I have an additional point. I've seen the book. I'm looking forward to read it. I bought it through my usual book trader in order to put it into part of their assortment. They had to get it from Amazon, but now they have it in their list. So Michele, so it took a second. They just sent me a mail. I can pick it up. It's, for me, the key thing, and this is now probably also reflected in what we have. It is reflected in what we have discussed. I think one of the big things to give to people you're a mentor, you're mentoring, is to also have them start to understand how they and their needs and their priorities develop over time. And so I think your ability and your willingness and your productivity to fit into certain time of organization cultures may be developing, and in some periods of your life, it develops quite fast. I mean, the classic around 40, life gets an autonomy game and stuff like that. So, or autonomy becomes much more important. I think this is also one of the fascinating things of coaching and mentoring people, to help them understand that they're on a journey themselves. And
yeah, absolutely.
That's great about your model, that you allow for this, giving all this emphasis on the needs and the characteristics of the person.
Well, thank you very much. Look, the fact of the change is absolutely a point that we have to stress. Not only we change over time because life changes us, right? We improve, we develop, but also we have issues, right? Our possibilities, our personal spec changes, right? Sometimes we can relocate, sometimes we can't relocate. But also, let's not forget that the companies also change.
Yeah.
We change the CEO, and the entire company culture in many cases changes, right? So, and that has accelerated over the years, right? When we were younger, Georg, it was different. But now things move very, very fast. Companies change very fast. People change very fast. So having this clear GPS where you continuously reroute is critical. But we need to manage our own career destiny. This is what the book tries. Actually, the initial title of the book was Manage Your Career Destiny. Then we changed it to The Career Remix, right? But that's overall the same principle. And I really hope that the book doesn't get old with those principles. And yes, absolutely, I will follow Giacomo's suggestion. That's why I'm working on the website to really put workshops, tools, exercises there to really make sure that this has the broadest and deepest possible impact in society.
Amazing. Great. That was going to be, thank you. And that's going to be my last question, actually. It's a bit of a fun question. You're dressed a bit like a DJ right now, Michele, looking very trendy, as always, of course. And what kind of career DJ would you be? So the remix is a really nice metaphor. So tell us about how would you remix careers overall? Why did you choose that image for the book overall, that metaphor?
Because it's not about remixing our careers, right? There is a lot about that in the book, is pivoting, is orienting ourselves, is about right? But it's also about the market. I think that the job market needs to be remixed too. It takes two to tango, right? I remember when we were developing Talent Dev years ago, and Sharath, you know that you've been a fantastic traveling companion. Our biggest stumbling block wasn't to get individual users, candidates, employees to go through this discovery, setting their own personal spec, was to really get smart employers to really declare in a transparent way who they were and who they were not. So my whole idea, if you're asking me what the second book will be all about, will be about the employer, because if we really want to change the future of work, we really need to work on the two sides of the fence, and we need to bring down that fence.
Amazing. What a powerful way to close off today, Michele. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for such a really rich discussion. I think just taking it as read, we'll use some of the audio. Michele might do some clips from it. We're happy with that. Just checking. It'll probably be Michele speaking most of the time, but just checking if we're happy. Yeah. Okay, so everyone's happy. And really, really rich discussion. And I think we're going to be a huge evangelist and advocates, Michele, for the work and getting you out there. So a small group today, but actually a very committed group. And I think one is going to create a big wave for the ideas in the book and for you, Michele, as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sharath, for helping with this, and for everyone on the call. And we will share the recording. Please share it and help me and also Sharath, because to be honest, we work a lot in tandem to really improve this world of work, because everyone is going to benefit. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really nice to see everyone. Bye, everyone.
Excellent. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.